I'll share my screen with a presentation. I'll use PowerPoint so you see the agenda for today. And we'll have a case study of just one technical report that I did myself. So I'll take you through the process and you should be able to get the hang of it and be able to write your own technical report after. So then if you have any questions, I would like you all to wait till the end of the session. Then I'll try to finish up on time so you'll be able to ask your questions. Is that all right? So I guess I'll go ahead and share my screen now. So, okay. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay, that's great. So, yes. So again, my name is Daniel Ezekiel, and this is the overview of what we'll be going through today. So first, I'll just give a brief introduction about what technical report writing is, then the features of a good technical report, what it entails. Then I give examples about the different types of technical reports. Then we go down and break down the outline of or the layout of how a technical report should be written. Then I also give best practices. So it is during the best practices session that we are going to work together to see how to properly write how to write a good technical report. So moving on, let's go over the overview now. So basically what technical report writing is that any piece of document, scientific in this sense does not mean any scientific documents. It does not specifically mean that somebody has to be in the sciences or almost everything is a science, even art. Art is a science also. So any scientific document or a document that is created that is used to convey information about any particular research and it is fact-based. So that's the scope of what a technical report is. Is that what technical says that it is specific to a particular field of study. So it has to be defined and refined to meet the requirements in that field of study. I hope you understand what I mean by that. So when we say a scientific document, that means it is broad and you need to go into detail. And a good technical report, it breaks down the information that the person is trying to pass across. It breaks it down so that anybody that takes the reports within that same field will be able to understand what is going on. And it has applications in agriculture, engineering, physical, and biomedical sciences. So even in arts too, people in the arts, they write technical reports too. Although the format and layout, there are slight differences between the technical reports written in the arts and the technical reports written in science and engineering. So, and a basic technical report has 3 features. That's the process that you need to go through for you to be able to complete the technical report writing process. So the first one is the process itself, meaning that by process, I mean that there will be like your research prior to when you begin the report per se. So a research in the sense that you are going to look for information, journals that you use to add references to your documents. You are going to look for details that you can use to create a good and solid breakdown of that topic or that information that you are trying to pass across. So after that research process, your report. So while you are writing your report, based on the information that you have gotten about the topic that you are addressing, based on the information that you have gotten on several concepts that you have to break down, in the progress part of the technical report writing, you are going to start documenting those things in the right format, in the right aspects, in the right sections, and things like that. Then based on all what your documentation is, you should be able to draw out a conclusion out of the work that you have done. Start with the research process, then go with the documentation, breaking down everything into stuff that anybody that picks up your report should be able to understand. Anybody that is within that field should be able to easily understand. Then the results as per drawing a conclusion from all what your work is about. So there are different types of technical reports. And for students and undergraduates, basically not only undergraduates, though even in organizations and industries, there are these 5 types of technical reports apply almost everywhere. So in the educational sector, there are articles for publications, articles in the sense that they'll be published in journals. So let's say, for example, in mechanical engineering now, there are different sections of mechanical engineering. There's production engineering, there's fluid mechanics, there's statics and dynamics and things like that. So for somebody that is writing and that wants to write an article on fluid mechanics, fluid dynamics, fluid engineering, they have to publish their articles in a journal that caters to the fluid mechanics, fluid dynamics field of mechanical engineering. So, and that's articles are mostly for educational types of technical reports. Let me just put it that way. Articles, yeah, majorly educational types of technical reports. Proposal reports, on the other hand, proposal reports are similar to feasibility reports. Proposal reports come before feasibility reports in the sense that if you have a research topic that you are handling or supposed to maybe create a product or something like that, you're supposed to fabricate one machine or something like that, or you have an idea that you don't know how it's going to perform upon completion. You draft the proposal report, and the proposal report caters to what your idea is about or what the research is about first. That's what you talk about. Then you now give an overview that goes into detail about the research studies you've taken, what you can find about those proposal, what you can find about that particular topic, what you can find about that idea that you have. Then you now give there's what they call a proposed methodology. That keyword, proposed methodology, says how you are going to approach tackling that research problem, or how you intend to complete the process of creating or implementing that idea, how you intend to fabricate that machine that you think is going to solve one problem or the other. So basically, proposal is broken down into the introduction section, the literature review, and then the proposed methodology. So it's based on that proposed methodology that you know if the project is feasible or not. So that leads me to talk about feasibility reports. Feasibility reports they come after proposal reports in the sense that what feasibility reports detail is that based on what the results of the proposal are from the methodology, you have an idea as to whether the project makes sense, whether the project is a good idea, whether implementing the idea that you have or the research results will make sense, something like that. So feasibility reports take into consideration that will that research process, by the time it's completed, is it profitable? Will it make sense? Will it provide value and things like that? So evaluation reports, now let me talk about evaluation reports. Evaluation reports are getting, let me put it in this way, getting the what of, they're usually using organizations. Let's say, let me give an example now. Organizations that have equipment that they use to carry out their day-to-day activities. Any company can carry out an evaluation report, because from heavy machines like cranes to maybe the computers they use in the offices, everything caters to the day-to-day running of the organization. So evaluation reports caters to getting the what of the company in a way, to see if the company's what is, how it is performing based on their operations and things like that. While finally, dissertations and theses, dissertations and thesis, that one is like a research project that you do to properly, how will I put it now? Research is like a standard research project. Let me put it like that. A standard research project that has passed through a proposal and feasibility study process before you can now go ahead and carry out your experiments, your research cases, carry out your test cases, and see if after you have done the proposal, see the and you have confirmed that the feasibility is effective, then you go ahead and write the dissertation and thesis to draw out conclusions and give recommendations based on the results that you get. That is the idea of dissertations and thesis. You work on your research project. After you have carried out a proposal study and feasibility study of that project, and it is successful, then you carry out the experiment or research process completely. Then you get results and then conclude on those results and advise on next steps based on the results that you get. So the cases where you use dissertations and theses is maybe PhD research, undergraduate research, there are dissertations that they write. Then basically standard professional setting, most likely education, uses dissertation and thesis. Feasibility reports, that one you say it is assigned to, you say is more unique to organizations. Let's say they have an idea they intend to implement to see how it works. Feasibility reports are applied to like organizations. Evaluation reports, same thing to organizations like that. So for people that are yet to go on IT, for example, by the time you go on your industrial training sessions, most companies that you go on industrial training sessions, most companies where you go for industrial training sessions, you have to carry out an evaluation study after you come back to determine the worth of that company. Then proposal reports come before feasibility reports, and feasibility reports come before dissertations or theses. Then articles, on the other hand, from results that you get from your research process, articles can be drafted based off your standard research process. Like let's say I run a project now and I've completed it, gotten my results and everything. I now created a dissertation. That's the technical reports type of dissertation. I create it. So based on what I've created, I can now draft an article from the dissertation. Makes it easier. You can do it without the dissertation, but it just makes it easier. So once again, the 5 types of technical reports that are kind of popular compared to the other ones are articles, proposal reports, evaluation reports, feasibility reports, then dissertations or thesis. So moving on, let's just talk about the basic report layout, like the outline of what a standard report should look like. A standard report is divided into three sections. There's the prefatory section, then there's the report body itself. Then at the end of the report, there's the appendix section. So the prefatory section takes contents that just like give a preface or an intro into the main part of the report. For example, the title page now. The title page gives the name of what the research is about, the report title, then it gives maybe the purpose for the report, then the name of the researchers, the name of the person that wrote the report, then the day or the date that the report was written. I will also share a screen and we'll go through all these prefatory sections, the main content, that's the body section, and then the appendix section, and you'll see all these things. So other parts of the prefatory section include, apart from the title page that takes in the name of the project, the name of the thesis, the title of the thesis, or then the name of the individuals involved, the date, and the purpose for that report, maybe the reason why they're writing the report. Then there's the acknowledgement section. Then there's executive summary or the abstract section. The situations where you use executive summary are different from the situations where you use abstracts. Executive summary is used when you're writing something like a proposal report, while abstracts are used when you're writing the thesis or the dissertation itself. So the cases where you use executive summary and abstracts are different. Then you have table of contents, table of figures, list of tables, then list of symbols and abbreviations. That's where it is applicable. Not all people, not everybody, or not every report has a need for symbols and abbreviations, but most engineering reports should have, even arts reports in the arts also should have list of tables, table of figures, and things like that. So for the report body is divided into 5 main parts. Almost all reports have this 5 main parts, except the proposal reports. The proposal reports has just 3 out of these 5. So something like an article can be broken down into these 5 main parts. An evaluation report can also be broken down into these 5 parts. It's just the proposal report that takes the first 3 out of these 5. Then a dissertation needs these 5 parts. Without these 5 parts, a dissertation or thesis is not complete. Then a feasibility study is also different because it is building up from the proposal reports. That is where it is getting the details from. So a feasibility study is quite different from this layout. So most of the reports we write that we will use, most of them include these 5 main parts, and as you can see, they are listed here as first, the introduction to what the study is about. You give a brief overview, just a general idea. If somebody reads it, the person can know what the project is about, just to guide them into the flow so they understand what is going on. You can bring the introduction section has a problem statement, what you intend to achieve, the objectives for the report, for writing the report or for the study. Then the justification for the study also, like the reason why you are taking the study. So after the introduction section comes the literature review section. What the literature review section involves is that you go into deep detail as to everything about the project, previous works that have been done, all the works that other people have done that are related to the project. You incorporate it into your project and reference properly, citations where necessary as well, and reference those texts that you use in your own work. So the literature review, for example, let's say I'm writing a project on okay, in the case study that I'll present, we'll get to see all these things, how it is broken down. So let's just give a brief overview about everything. So the introduction takes the about of the project, just the guideline to what the project is about, the justification for the study, the scope of the study, the objectives that are after they are achieved, we see the project or the study is successful. Then the literature review, on the other hand, takes in all the core details about the project. So the literature review will take all the previous study, explain the project into more detail, and give a more concise knowledge about what the project is. The methodology is the next one after. Methodology describes and details how you intend to go about that project, how you intend to go about the study, how you intend to work to carry out the study and get your results. So based on the results from the methodology part, based on the result, the outline for the methodology, that's what you implement into the experiments, into the simulations that you carry out, into the study process. The methods that you specify in your methodology will be used to carry out your study. Then after you have implemented the methods in your method, the methods that you listed in the methodology on how you go about the project, the results that you get is what you bring into the results and discussion chapter. So inside the results and discussion chapter, based on the results that you obtain, based on the results that you get, you now analyze those results and discuss what your findings are. Based on what your findings are, you'll be able to draw your conclusions and give advice that will be taken as recommendations based on that project. So the case study that we are going to see, we'll look at all these things further and kind of give you a brief idea about what to do, what not to do, the best practices in writing reports and things like that. So the last section, remember I mentioned 3 different sections inside the reports. There's the prefatory section, the report body, and then the appendix section. In the appendix section comprises of the references and the appendices. So what the appendix section take, the references section now is going to take all the citations that you have listed within your documents that you use to give more light, to shed more light on what your study is about. You list everything out in the references section. That is what the references section does. So the appendices, on the other hand, are, for example, things that you could not put in the in your report body. You list them as, let's say, tables, definitions, tables, images that you could not list in your report body, maybe because it is maybe to make the report body too bulky, you can't find where to incorporate it. The appendices takes all those ones. So the things that cannot be incorporated into the report body, that is what the appendices section takes. The references takes all the citations that you listed out in your literature review. It could even be in the introduction section. Such citations, you introduce them into your references section. So now, as we are moving to the best practices part of this session, while I'm talking about the best practices, I'll be switching screens between the case study as a PDF, then the case study in Microsoft Word, and this slide presentation. So moving on to the best practices section, I'm going to detail what you should do whenever you want to write a technical report. So first thing, always have it in mind that don't make spelling errors and write your name properly, in the sense that make sure your surname is identifiable in your report writing. If you want to write, for example, me now, my name is Daniel Ezekiel. My first name is Daniel. My last name is Ezekiel. So if I tell anybody my name, the standard practice is that if I tell you my name and I say Daniel Ezekiel, you should know that Daniel is my first name and Ezekiel is my last name. But I think the way we've been brought up here in this place, if they ask you your name, you say your surname first, Ezekiel. My name is Ezekiel Daniel. So based on that, nobody can be particularly sure about what your surname is, what your first name is. So when you're writing this down in your report, write make sure your surname is identifiable. So in the reports that I'm going to show now, I'm going to show example of how I wrote my surname, and I will also show different ways that you can write your surname to make it obvious, to make your surname identifiable. That's the very important thing. Your last name must be identifiable and it must be easily differentiated from your first name. So let me share my screen for how we should write our names. So here's a PDF. So this here is my final year project. So I'll be using it as a case study for this session. So this is the title page. This is the first page. So you can see it takes in the title of the study. This one says geometrical analysis of shockwave attenuation in a channel using rigid obstacle matrices. Then it takes in the name of the people that are involved in the project. Then more information about the project. This one is submitted to Alo University Mechanical Engineering Department, and the reason is impartial fulfillment of the requirements for a degree in mechanical engineering. Then the date. So this is a standard title page for a thesis. This is a thesis. I call this a thesis. So this is a great way to write your name. You can see the surname is in capital, in all caps. So here it is evident that this is the surname. This individual also puts his surname in capital. So it is also evident here that this is the surname. Then this is the first name. Then this is the other names, same as for the second individual. This is his first name, and these are the other names. So this is a great way to write your name. Another way that you can write your name, I'll open my Microsoft Word now. And in Microsoft Word, I am going to show you the other alternatives to writing your name to make your surname identifiable. So this is the same thing that was shown in the PDF. So another way of writing your name, in case you want to write your name in, let's say in all caps, to write your name in all caps like this. Now, since I've already told you, know what my surname is, the best thing to do is actually to write it in your surname in caps, then your other names in small letters in this other standard that is like this, each of the names in capital letters. So in case you write your name in all caps like this, then either you put a comma that shows that that name is your last name, then the other names are your first name and middle name. Either use a comma or you write it in the standard format of name first, then surname at the end. So like this, anybody that reads this should know that Ezekiel is your last name. Ezekiel is my last name. Daniel is my first name. Boluwatife is my middle name. So in the case that this can also be written in sentence case as well. Sorry, not sentence case. I mean, by capitalizing each word like this too is also fine. Then if another alternative is also to write it like this. Just it is evident what your surname is, what your first name is, what your last name is. But in case of any reports that you're writing, I would advise to write it in this format. This format is easy to read, easy to understand, and it is not, let me just say it's not hard to understand compared to the other formats, because when there's too much going on or it is blending in easily, you might not really get what you're saying. But this one at the bottom is easy to understand. Now it's evident that Agbaje is a surname of this individual. Those are his other names. But here, unless you see the comma, you won't know which one is my first name, which one is my middle name, which one is my last name. So that is for the spelling and then the improper name writing. Spelling errors, check your spellings, make sure they are correct, write properly, and try not to make mistakes. So moving on, let's talk about the headings now. If your chapters, okay, let me put it like this. Headings describe the hierarchy of everything within your documents. So headings, so there are different levels of headings. In any technical report you are writing, it is best practice is not to go below the third level of headings. So going below the third level of headings is almost unnecessary. It's almost unnecessary to go to below the third level of headings. So the headings hierarchy is something like this. In a chapter, let's say for the introduction chapter now, the introduction itself takes the highest level of heading. Then if I want to give an overview about what the introduction is about, that's like the next level of heading. That's like maybe let's say 1.0 or 1.1. That's like 1.1. Then a subheading under that 1.1 will take 1.1.1. But when you are reaching the fourth level of heading, that you're having 1.1.1.1 or 2.2.2.2, it is already getting unnecessary. So I'll give you an example based on my project. So let's take a look at the PDF now. So I hope everybody can still see my screen though. Can I get feedback? Yes. Does everybody still see my screen? Okay, that's
yes,
great.
Can see your screen.
So yes. Okay. Yes, thank you. So let me go to like a chapter now. So for example, chapter 1 now in the PDF, this chapter 1 and the introduction, that is the first level heading. So if you properly lay out the heading, it will be easy to draft your table of contents automatically if you're using Microsoft Word. So chapter 1 and the introduction takes the level 1 heading. Then you can see the second level of heading is this 1.1. That is 1.1, background to the study. That's the level 2 heading. The level 1 heading is this introduction. Level 2 heading is the background to the study. So and that takes 1.1. Now a level 3 heading is
stuff you are explaining.
What? What did you say?
What you are explaining about that heading, like 1.1 and all those stuff. What we can only see as best practices.
Oh, okay. Then okay. Thank you for that. That's why I was asking if I'm coming. Okay. Can you see the PDF file that I'm opening now?
Yes, sir.
And now, okay, now you can see chapter 1, introduction, background to the study. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's good. So the introduction takes the level 1 heading. The background to the study takes the level 2 heading. So in level 3 heading now is there's no level 3 heading in chapter 1. Same thing for chapter 2. The level 1 heading is the literature review. The level 2 heading is the shockwave and overview. Then the level 3 heading now is this 2.1.1 that says types or forms of shockwave. So after this, in this report, I don't have anything after the level 3 heading because having a heading with 2.1.1.1, 2.1.3.4, it's kind of unnecessary. So this is better to just stop at level 3 heading. Then to create this type of headings is not so difficult. I'll show you how to do that in Microsoft Word now. I'll share the screen and you're going to see it. So yes. So a level. So for if you want to create a level 1 heading now, that is what this bar up here is for. So you see this one that says heading 1. If I highlight this whole thing now, I click, let's say heading 2, it changes it to the style of heading 2, changes this to the style of heading 3. Then this is, so with this bar, you can customize how you want how you want the layout of your report to be, in the sense that if I right click here and before I create I begin my reports writing, I first draft out how I want my styling to look. So within these sections, I had heading 1, heading 2, heading 3. Since I said I don't go below heading 3, I don't add heading 4, heading 5, and the likes. So I just use heading 1 to 3. Then my heading 1 is for things like introduction, literature review, methodology, results and discussion, then conclusions and recommendation. My level 2 heading is all the 1.1, 2.1, 3.1, 4.1, and the likes. Then my level 3 heading is 1.1.1 and the others. So if you right click on each of the headings, you'll be able to modify it to meet your requirements. So you can change the font style, the font size, the color, the line height, and things like that. So immediately you set it. Anytime you want to create a new heading, if I take this one out and I want to create an introduction now, by clicking on this heading, by clicking on heading 1, I've already activated that part should be heading 1. So if I type in introduction, I've set the heading 1, then this is set to heading 2. Yeah, this is set to heading 2. As you can see, it has moved to heading 2 here. It is set to heading 2. Then while this part is set to normal, because that is the content within the page. So, and what's the good thing about this is that when you want to draft out your table of contents, you can do it automatically if you properly set all these headings. All these headings was because they were set automatically, I was able to draft out my table of content straightforward, no issues, nothing. So if I take out this table of contents now, based on the settings that I have done, I can recreate the whole table of contents easily with no issues and no problems. So for example, I hope you are seeing my screen. So if I decide to use automatic table 1, automatically it has generated the table of contents because I specified the right headings to use. Chapter 5 says this is chapter 5. References says that's the heading for that part. Chapter 3 and methodology is heading 1, 3.1 is heading 2, 3.2 heading 2, 3.3 heading 3, 3.3.1 that's heading 3, 3.3.2 that's heading 3, and the likes. So using the heading settings properly will help you to be able to style your table of contents easily and without any stress. So you can just practice around with it to get the hang of it using table of contents properly. So moving on, let's power through the remaining parts of the slides.
Daniel, sorry.
So figures and images. Yes, good afternoon.
Yes, somebody posted a question in the chat box. So what type of heading is used to write chapter 1?
Okay, the chapter 1 is written with the level 1 heading. The title of the chapter, let's say chapter 1 and introduction, that's the title of that chapter, is written with a level 1 heading. Then anything that comes after cannot take a level 1 heading. The level 1 heading can only appear once in a chapter. Then the level 2 heading can appear as many times as possible. So the level 2 heading next now, let me talk about the level 2 heading. The level 2 heading now is one that is 1.1, 1.2. That one is like the next details about the chapter. For example, like we saw, a background to the study, the scope of the study, the justification for the study, the objectives for the study. Those ones can take level 2 headings. So for, let's say I want to add something that is under a background to the study now, that's a level 2 heading. What is a piece of text or a content that is under background to the study will take a level 3 heading. So instead of 1.2 that comes after 1.1, under that 1.1 that is background to the study, it is going to take 1.1.1. So I will now write, okay, details about background to the study, something like that. So then I continue that way. And all these things can be done by using these bullet points. With your bullet points, you can easily set the background to the study and things like that. So I hope I've answered that question about that chapter 1. So then I was trying to say something about figures and tables rather. So with figures, images, and tables, the important thing about using figures, images, and tables is that you need to properly reference them, especially figures. You need to reference pictures, like specify the source where you get those images from, and each image so far is related. Everything stays on a single page. You don't need any text on that page apart from the text that describes the image. I'll give an example and I'll show you. Same thing for tables. Tables also take a single page, a full page. That's what table takes. Figures and images, they take a full page and they don't have any text associated with them except their titles and a description. Or for example, now tables, the text that is supposed to be in tables, that's the only text that is there. So I'll give examples of the figures, images, and tables now in my reports, and I'll show it using the PDF. So here it is. Yeah. So I'll take it from the table of contents. So on page 19. Sorry. All right, for example, this image now, it is on a single page. It makes your work neater. Number one, that's the importance of having your images on a single page. Your work is neater, then it's not, the things that are going on the page are not too many. So anybody that sees the image sees the description under and gets to know what the image is about. So the proper way to describe an image is to use this, spell it out, figure. If this is the first image on the page, you say figure 2.1. That's with corresponding to the chapter. If this is chapter 1 now, you say this is the first image. This will be figure 1.1. Then this is the text that describes the image, a summarized view of shockwave attenuation using geometries, and also attached is the source to the image, because for image that you don't create on your own, you need to properly reference those images, and text that is not your own or text that you use within your document, you need to properly reference it as well. So images should take a whole page, and any text that is associated with an image should just be describing that image. Now, as for tables, now tables have the same idea also. A table takes a full page as well. So let me show you an example. So that's page 42. These are also examples of other images that take a full page. All the text that is on this page is just describing the image. For this type of image now, before we move to the tables, for this type of image now, they are related to each other. So they are marked, the one on top is marked A, the one below is marked B. So based on this marking, I now used, this is the first image in chapter 4. So figure 4.1 says A, describes A as density color for plain rectangular domain at this. So this is A, this is B, this is the description for A, this is the description for B. The reason why this one does not have I didn't cite any references for it is because this one was created by myself. I created these images based on the work that I've done. I didn't get these images from any online source or from any book or anything like that. That is why this one does not have references. But the previous one that we took a look at, that one was from a journal. So based on that, I had to reference the journal that this image is not mine. I got it from this journal, so and things like that. Then I want to get you a table that shows. This is a table now. The layout of a table now says the table information should be at the top. For figures, the information is below the picture, or below the figure, or below the image. But for tables, the information is above the table. Then the best practices is that apart from the heading, the table heading, that is for example, this computational setup and value, all the other content should not have any demarcating lines, as you can see here. And if it does not have any demarcating line, in a way, it is actually easier to read and not too much is going on that, so you don't get distracted. So this is the best practice for a table. A table should take a full page, 1. The table description should be above the table, 2. Then it is not compulsory. It is not compulsory to apply this setting for the table borders and everything. You can actually put a line, but best practices advise that you should not use a line apart from the line that separates the table heading from the table content. So best practices for images and for figures and tables are, you should take a single page. Apart from taking a single page, properly reference it if you are getting it. If you're not the one creating the content, then also describe the image of the table properly as well. Then I think the other parts that we need to discuss are not too technical per se. So language aspects, sentence usage, wording, and verb context. Anytime you're writing your a report, don't use first person. That's my advice. I recommend that you don't use first person, because when you are trying to say you did something, even though it might not be always true, it's better to talk in the third person and use a passive voice, in the sense that, let's say what example can I give? Let's say I ran a simulation now, and the simulation is saying that I studied the process of I found out the pressure ahead of a shock, pressure upstream of a shock wave, and compared it to the pressure downstream of a shock wave. Instead of using I, it gets too redundant and it does not make any sense. It's better to say a simulation was run, and based on the results of that simulation, comparison was done with both the pressure upstream of the shock and the pressure downstream of the shock. That one sounds better, and there's no I did this, I did that, I did this, I did that. Then sentence usage is better. Is also advisable not to shorten your sentences, in the sense that don't use all these chatting styles that you just cut words and everything. Or maybe you want to write they would have to write THEY''D. They'd have to, or I haven't, or don't go, don't, didn't, doesn't. Don't use words like that. Make sure you spell everything completely. Don't shorten words, and make sure your words, like the sentences you use, make sure they make sense. And it's advisable not to use complex sentences. Try to break down a sentence that is above 35 words is not advisable to use, because it gets harder to understand the longer a sentence is. So for language aspects, don't shorten your words. Don't join words together like don't, doesn't, didn't, and things like that. Then always talk in the passive voice. Don't use the active voice, and stop using first person. It's better to use the third person. Then make sure your context is right, and use technical words that are pertaining to that field that your study is based on. Don't use words that, even though the study should be easily understandable, it's still not advisable to use technical words that are directed at professionals within that industry. That is for language aspects. Then the very important part is using citations and references. So there are two types of citation processes and references process. The one the arts use, people in the arts, the one they use is the numerals process, and that's when for each reference you put it in a box and say 1 for reference 1, 2 for reference 2, 3 for reference 3. But what we will use in the engineering field is the author year references. So I'll show you in my Word document the references. We're almost done. I'll show you my Word document how to use references, how to automatically create them, and how to automatically generate the whole references thing too as well. So let me open my Word document. So I'll just go to any random page and show you a reference that I have on the page. I think this is one. This reference now, if I remove it, I'm coming. So I want to reference Zuckerman. So going to, there's this, in this part of Microsoft Word, there's the references section. So I'm clicking the references section. You can insert a citation. That's if you have not created a citation yet. So let me get the details about this Zuckerman, about Zuckerman. So Zuckerman coming with it. So okay. So if I was to create a new citation now, and I want to reference, I got this text now from an article in a journal by Zuckerman. It says blast wave refers to compression and suction waves set up during detonation of high explosives. So this text now is not, I didn't come up with the definition. I saw it from a block of from an article. So I have to reference it because it's not mine, and plagiarism errors, because if this work is to be published now and they run the plagiarism checker against different documents, it is not going to be accepted, and it is a crime to use intellectual property without giving credit to where credit is due. So to reference this now, if you are just creating a new reference, I want to cite something. If you click on this insert citation button, these are the references that were actually created. So I'm not going to use any one. To create a new one, use add new source. So when you click add new source, you get this page, this window, sorry. You get this window. This is where you insert the details about the documents that you are referencing. So I don't have the details at hand now, so I'll just close this and go and edit one of the old ones that I've created, especially that Zuckerman one now. So this window is what it brought out previously. So depending on what type of document you are going to reference, sorry, I've already used past my time, so I'll try to hurry up the rest of the section. This person is an article in a periodical, so that's why I selected article in a periodical here. The other options, there's if it's a book section, you select the book section. If it's a journal article, you select the journal article. If it's a report, a conference proceeding, a website, or if it's an interview or a miscellaneous thing, you select the right one, the one that meets the requirements. If it's a book as well, select the book. But this one is an article in a periodical. So these are the details I have to insert. For the author part, the first name of the man is of the individual. I don't know if it's a man. The first name of the individual is Zuckerman. So, and his last name is S. So to write the name, it is Zuckerman, S, like his initials. If it was more than one name, for example, let's say I was involved in the project, which I was not. So I just add a semicolon and add my own name too. So my first name, Daniel, then my initials, Daniel, then my initials, E, then add a dot. So like this now, it's going to automatically generate the references based on the input you put here. The title of the article is Experimental Study of Blast Injuries to the Lungs. The title of the periodical is The Lancet. The year it was published is 1940. That's 219 pages. For normally this page is it has over 219 pages, but the page where the context that I took out of that journal is on page 219. That's what that page is. If it's multiple pages, I'll just add page 219 to maybe 222. That's how it is. So, and you also get examples of how the contents within all those form inputs should be. So for pages, this is how it's supposed to be. For day, like this. For month, like this. For year, 2006 example, so 1940. Then the title of the periodical, Adventure Works Daily, this is the title. Then the title of the article, how to write. So then after you've properly set everything up, just click OK. So since I just click no because this is already in my list, then because I added Daniel, you can see that it's updated here. Then if I wanted to insert the same citation here, because this is where I took it out from, I just click insert citation and look for Zuckerman. So Zuckerman shows, so Zuckerman and Daniel in 1940. So now the context now says, according to Zuckerman and Daniel in 1940, blast waves refer to the so and so. So that's how you reset citations and reference text that you get from any source that you have. So based on setting up all these things, you'll be able to easily generate your references in the end. So for example, all these references that I generated is based on all these things that I did while I was documenting the study. So if I take out everything that is within this part, if I take out everything that is here now, I'm coming, and then if you click on bibliography, clicking on bibliography gives you the option to add a like a reference section to your work. So for example, and I click on references, based on all those citations that I've entered, that I've imputed, that I've created different citations, cited them at different places, and created different sources and everything. On clicking this references button, it generates my references for me straight, easily and quietly, no stress. All I just needed to do was just make sure I was documenting everything properly. And the right standard is to use an hanging indentation style. Microsoft Word already provides that. So hanging indentation means that the first line takes the whole length, while the other lines after are spaced from the end. So this is an indentation style, and it's easy to generate, no stress. Same with table of contents. If you do the same thing with all those headers, headings, all those different level headings, you'll be able to easily generate table of contents, you'll be able to easily generate references, you'll be able to easily generate table of figures as well, and list of tables. So that is like the whole gist of technical reports writing. If you apply, I know it's kind of not detailed per se, because it's hard to do all these things within an hour 30 minutes plus. I'm almost done now though. So based on this, I hope you already have an idea of what you can do to write a good technical report. So I'll go back to the slides now. So that's just the idea. Then for your conclusions and recommendations, the best thing is, based on the results that you get, make sure your conclusions and recommendations align along the scope of your study. Don't go and bring something that is not even related to your study and just put it inside, or insert it and just do nonsense to your work, because like that it has already dropped the value of the work and shattered it already. So basically the idea, let me just give just a brief overview. The idea is that write properly, write your name properly, headings, do your headings properly as well. Whatever level the heading you require, there's only one level 1 heading on every part of your page. So level 1 heading, level 2 heading, level 3 heading. You don't need anything below the level 3 heading. Using the level 4 heading is allowed, but it is not necessary, and it makes your work kind of, it's not going to be as neat. Let me just put it that way. So, and if you properly set all these headings and other things like that, you'll be able to generate your table of contents easier. Then as for the figures and tables, each figure and each table takes 1 page, and they need their description. Tables take their description above the table, figures and images take their description below the table. Then we group images together if they are related. use ABC and then describe it appropriately. Then if you can properly tag the images and reference them after you reference them and describe them, you can properly tag the images, you'll be able to automatically generate a table of figures and list of tables as well. Then don't talk in the first person, use the passive voice and talk in the third person. Make sure you don't cut your words short, and make sure you don't use don't, doesn't, words like that, or did, or didn't, and things like that. Use standard usage of words and try not to make spelling errors. Don't use complex sentences. Make your sentences easy to understand. Use technical words as well. Then cite your work properly. Plagiarism is an offense, so cite your work properly. Depending on what industry and what field you're in, if it's the arts, use the numeral style. If it's the engineering and sciences, use the author yes style. And then conclude properly, give recommendations, and I guess that's all. So thank you for your time. I didn't mean to go by time, so thank you for your time. That's all. Do I have any questions that I need to address for the session to end? I don't know if anybody has any questions. Yes, I think in the chat box somebody said.
Thank you for the lecture, sir. Hello, can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, I can hear you. What did you say?
Please, thank you for the lecture, sir.
Okay, yes.
It's implicit and well detailed. But actually, I want to ask, the chapter 1, the chapter 2, what style do you use? Which type of heading do you use for that?
Okay.
Do you get my question?
For each, I think I get what you say. Let me see.
Let me chapter 1. You understand? Like the literature review. You said heading 1. Like so now, on top of that literature, you wrote the chapter, the chapter, whether it's chapter 1 or chapter 2. So what style of heading do you use for that?
Okay.
Chapter 1, chapter 2, like that?
Okay, the one I did that I submitted.
Yes, sir.
I did not use. It depends on how you want it. Let me just put it that way. You can make that chapter 1 part let me just put it like maybe just a normal styling, no heading, nothing. So by the time you are generating your table of contents, you won't see that chapter 1 in the table of contents. What you will see is maybe introduction, literature review, methodology, and things like that. But if depending on your choice, also, you can also put that chapter 1 as heading 1, then literature review itself as heading 1, and you can interchange it. So basically what the heading 1 is supposed to do is that determine what the page is supposed to be. So by the time you're putting it in your table of contents, it's the one that will house everything that is within that page. I hope you get what I mean.
Yes, I got it right. Okay. Thank you very much.
Yes, you're welcome.
All right.
Any other questions? Yes, in the chat box, I think I see somebody said, in a nutshell, we should use formal form of writing. Exactly. This Olo-Layemo. I'm sorry if I did not get your name correctly, but this person got what I mean ahead. So he said use for do not, don't use don't. For did, don't use did, use they would. You are, don't use ya, you are. Just spell everything out, break it down, make it concise, make it direct, and make sure you're passing a message across, and make sure it's the right message. That one's on that thing too. So any other questions? Okay, since I guess there are no other questions, I just hope everybody gained something during this session. Like, even though it was kind of short, they could not do everything, but I hope everybody just gained something though. Yeah, I'll take that as a yes. So
yes, we gain a lot.
Yeah, okay.
But I
Thank
still
you very
wish
much.
we can have access to detailed class, because there are some things which we still need more explanation on. Maybe might connect to you on LinkedIn just to ask questions.
Yeah. Okay, there's no problem. If should I anybody that needs questions, I will send my LinkedIn handle in. I'll send the link itself into the chat box. So uh, I'm typing it now. Pause. So anybody that wishes to connect with me on LinkedIn is free to do so. Yes. So that's my link. The link to my LinkedIn. So anybody that has questions, you can reach me on LinkedIn. And yeah, LinkedIn preferably. Thank you very much. So please, I would like to ask Ms. Bimisola, should I end the meeting now? If you have anything else you'd like to add?
It's fine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for your time, everybody. Have a lovely evening.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you for the teaching, sir.
Thank you, sir.